It was a normal Saturday morning in the city. People were walking, chatting, and going about their routines. But on one busy street, a scene unfolded that would make anyone stop in their tracks. A woman, trapped by a group of strangers, looked cornered and terrified. Their voices were loud, their words sharp. She had nowhere to run. No one in the crowd stepped forward. Phones were out, some filming, some just recording. Some people watched in silence, frozen by fear or indecision. But this wasn't just a case of bullying. Something in her expression told anyone paying attention that this was bigger, something personal, something raw. Then, out of the crowd, a single man appeared. At first, he blended in, just another passerby. But when he noticed her eyes searching for help, something changed. His steps quickened, his jaw tightened. He wasn't a hero, not really. Just a dad, trying to live life, juggling work and his child, just trying to survive. But in that moment, he couldn't ignore what was happening. What happened next would shock everyone watching. A confrontation, yes, but not the kind anyone expected. There was fear, there was chaos, and there was a single dad who decided, against all odds, to act. Before we go deeper into this case, take a second and hit the subscribe button. Give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel. Who was this man, and what would happen if he stepped in? Could he really change the course of this terrifying moment, or would things spiral even further? James Dask was not your average man. A single dad, late 30s, juggling a modest job and the relentless challenges of raising his daughter, Berla, alone. His life was quiet, repetitive, sometimes draining, but it was his. Every morning began with the same routine, getting Berla ready for school, making breakfast that she sometimes refused to eat, then rushing off to his part-time job at a local grocery store. Life had not been kind. Divorce, layoffs, late bills, and sleepless nights. But James had learned resilience. He had learned how to stretch every dollar, how to find joy in the small moments, and how to make sure Berla felt safe, loved, and proud of her dad. Even on weekends, he never stopped. Laundry, cleaning, grocery shopping, and homework supervision. The kind of life most people only catch glimpses of. But James never complained. He didn't have the luxury. He had Berla. And Berla was everything. Her smile in the mornings, her tiny hands gripping his as they walked to school, her endless questions about the world, sometimes exhausting, often inspiring. James loved every second, even when exhaustion threatened to take over. Yet beneath the surface, James carried a constant weight, the kind that doesn't disappear with sleep. He worried about bills, about his aging car breaking down, about being enough for Berla. He questioned every decision he made, wondering if he was failing as a parent. But life, as it often does, had a strange way of testing him in ways he never expected. That Saturday, he had taken Berla to the park for a few hours. It was a sunny day, a rare one in the middle of a gray winter. Children's laughter filled the air, parents chatted nearby, but James's mind was elsewhere. He was planning the week ahead, trying to figure out how to pay a late rent notice, how to fix the leaky faucet at home, and how to make sure Berla's school project got done. And then, on his way home, he noticed her. A woman, alone at first, walking briskly with purpose. But soon a group of people began to surround her. Their voices, aggressive and sharp, reached him even from a distance. His gut tightened. Something felt wrong. James slowed his pace. Something about her eyes, wide and scanning for help, triggered something deep inside him. The protective instinct every father knows. one that can't be ignored. He didn't know this woman. He didn't know why she was in danger, and yet he felt a pull he couldn't resist. Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on this story below. I read every single one. James took a deep breath, tightening his grip on his backpack strap. His mind raced. Should he intervene? Should he ignore it? But before he could decide, he found himself moving forward, stepping into a moment that would change everything. The woman was now cornered near a small cafe, her back against the wall. The group surrounding her had closed in, their voices rising in a mix of accusation, mockery, and intimidation. Passers-by had begun to notice, some slowing down, some peering curiously. The tension was palpable. James approached cautiously, trying not to make himself a target. But the woman's eyes met his, and he could see the silent plea for help. He could feel the fear radiating from her, the weight of the world pressing down on her in that moment. "What are you doing?" one of the men shouted as James stepped closer. I'm just—" James hesitated. His words faltered. He wasn't a fighter. He wasn't a hero. But something inside him demanded action. "Stay back!" another voice barked. James' heart raced, adrenaline coursing through him, but he refused to step back. He moved closer, placing himself between the woman and the aggressors. The crowd around them murmured, some in shock, some in fear. The woman's hands shook. "Thank you," she whispered, almost inaudible. James nodded, trying to mask his own fear. The aggressors, sensing his resolve, shifted, testing boundaries. The moment was tense, almost electric. Every word, every movement could escalate this into violence. James's mind raced. He thought about Burla. He thought about the life he was building. And he realized that this moment, this single act, was bigger than him. It wasn't about heroism. It was about standing up for what was right, even when it scared him. "Please, leave her alone," he said, voice firmer than he expected. Laughter erupted from the group. "Who do you think you are, some hero?" one of them sneered. The woman flinched. James felt a surge of protectiveness. He couldn't let them break her spirit. Not here, not now. Time seemed to slow. Every second stretched, each heartbeat loud in his chest. And then something unexpected happened. The woman's eyes flicked to James, her expression a mix of relief and fear. She whispered something he barely caught. I didn't know who else to trust." James's chest tightened. He realized this was bigger than a random act of aggression. There was a story here, a depth of fear and despair that he couldn't fully understand. But he knew one thing: he couldn't walk away. Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. Tell me what part hit you the hardest in the story, and share your thoughts in the comments. The group around them noticed the connection, and tension escalated. The air was thick with anticipation. Every passerby seemed frozen. Every second was a test. Would James be able to hold his ground, or was this about to spiral out of control? The men around her began to close in, trying to intimidate James. He could see it in their eyes, a mix of disbelief and amusement that a stranger dared challenge them. But James stood firm, his voice steady. "You need to back off," he said. One of them stepped closer, towering over James. "Or what?" he sneered. James's hands shook. He wasn't trained for this. He wasn't a fighter. But he remembered Burla, her small face, her unwavering trust in him. He couldn't let fear control him. The woman's voice trembled. "Please, just help me." The words struck James like a lightning bolt. He knew then that hesitation wasn't an option. The group began to push, their voices rising in anger. Passers-by murmured, some taking out phones. He could feel the world watching, yet he felt utterly alone. The stakes were higher than he imagined. His mind raced. What if they attacked? What if he failed? But as he looked at the woman's terrified eyes, he realized something crucial. Courage wasn't the absence of fear. Courage was acting despite it. The woman's voice trembled. I don't know what they want from me." James shook his head, trying to stay calm. "You're safe now. Just stay behind me." The crowd seemed to hold its breath. The group of aggressors tested boundaries, but James didn't flinch. Each second felt eternal, each heartbeat a drum of tension. Then, unexpectedly, one of the men pulled back. Something had shifted, perhaps the confidence of the woman, the firmness in James's stance, or simply the hesitation of the crowd. It was enough to stall them. James glanced at the woman. She was trembling but standing, her eyes still wide. He whispered, "We're going to get through this, I promise." And then the unthinkable happened. Before we continue, imagine yourself in James's shoes, a stranger asking you to step in to protect someone you don't know. Could you do it? Share your thoughts below. Suddenly, a loud voice cut through the tension. "Hey, that's enough!" People turned to see an older man approaching, a cafe owner, waving his hands. "You can't do this here! Leave, now!" The aggressors hesitated, their focus momentarily split. James saw his chance. He moved the woman away, toward the cafe doorway. She clutched his arm, relief flooding her features. Thank you," she whispered again, voice breaking. "I didn't think anyone would help me." James smiled faintly, though his heart still pounded. "You're safe now. That's all that matters." The crowd began to disperse, murmuring among themselves. The tension eased. James realized that fear, courage, and compassion had collided to change the moment entirely. "You were incredible," the woman said, gripping his hand. I don't even know your name." "James," he said simply. "James Dask." Her eyes softened. "I owe you my life, James. I really do." James shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. I just couldn't look away." It was a simple act, but its impact was enormous. Not just for the woman, but for James himself. He felt a surge of hope, proof that courage, even in ordinary people, could make a difference. In the days that followed, James couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. He went back to his routines, burla, work, chores, but something inside had shifted. He realized that being a single dad didn't just mean protecting his daughter. It also meant standing up for what was right, even when it scared him. Burla noticed a change, too. Her dad smiled more. He spoke more about courage, about standing up for others, and she understood. Her dad, her hero, could do more than survive. He could inspire. James didn't become famous or wealthy, but in that moment he discovered the power of empathy, of stepping forward when it mattered most. Before we move to the conclusion, think about this.
How would you respond if you saw someone in danger, afraid and alone? Could one small act change everything? James's story is a reminder that courage isn't about grand gestures. It's about choosing to act when it matters. A single dad, juggling his own struggles, stepped in to protect a stranger. And in doing so, he not only helped her, but transformed himself. If this story touched you, please give this video a like. If you're a single parent, comment below and share how you find strength in your everyday life. And don't forget to subscribe to The Redeemed Single Dad for more stories that remind us all that hope, empathy, and courage are never out of reach. Thank you for joining us today. Remember James's courage, remember Sylvia's relief, and remember your own power to make a difference, one moment at a time.